Let's play a scenario out. You pull off the ultimate heist, acting as a real-life Danny Ocean who just successfully robbed a major bank in downtown Manhattan. And congratulations, you are now sitting on a mountain of cash. $5 million in crisp, physical $100 bills packed into heavy duffel bags. But right then and there, a harsh reality sets in because you can't actually spend any of it. Meaning you can't walk into a dealership and pay cash for a brand new Tesla or put a down payment on a luxury condo in Miami. Since the moment you try to drop millions in hard cash, a massive compliance alarm goes off wherein compliance officer looks at you and asks where this money came from. And trust me, telling them you just saved it up from working side hustles is not going to fly with the IRS, making this the ultimate classic nightmare for every criminal in history, where the solution they came up with is so brilliant, meticulous, and widespread that it's often called a dark art known as money laundering. Before we look at how to launder money, we need to understand why that cash is considered dirty in the first place, as dirty money is simply capital generated from illegal activities like drug trafficking, scams, fraud, corruption, embezzlement, or tax evasion. And no matter where it comes from, its defining trait is that it sits completely outside the radar of the IRS and the government, meaning you really don't want the FBI knowing it exists, though the problem is that money always leaves tracks, because every time cash moves through the banking system, a wire transfer is made, or a contract is signed, it leaves a digital footprint, and IRS criminal investigators, FinCEN, and federal agents are absolute experts at tracking those footprints. So the ultimate objective of money laundering is simple: to turn illegal funds into legitimate, taxable income through a high-stakes game of financial hide-and-seek that begins with the most dangerous step of all, which is placement. How do you get $5 million in physical cash into the banking system without raising any red flags? Because if you walk into a Bank of America branch with a heavy duffel bag full of cash, you're going to get caught instantly since, under U.S. federal law, banks are required to file a currency transaction report for any cash deposit over $10,000, leading criminals to use two main tactics like smurfing, where instead of depositing one massive lump sum, they break that $5 million down into hundreds of smaller amounts staying just under the $10,000 threshold, and deploy an army of hired runners to fan out across different bank branches, or using cash-intensive front businesses like car washes, nail salons, bars, or laundromats, literally where the term laundering comes from, where your car wash might realistically service 50 cars a day, but on your books you falsify the records to show 500 cars a day. So all that fake excess cash is just your dirty money being injected into the system legally as daily business revenue. Once that $5 million is safely sitting inside the bank accounts of these front businesses, phase one is complete. But since the money is still tied to a shady business front, and federal agents could audit the books closely to expose the truth, it has to move immediately into phase two, which is layering, where the goal is to create an absolute financial maze so federal investigators completely lose track and can never trace the money back to your original duffel bag, meaning the money in those front business accounts isn't allowed to sit still, but instead gets shifted around, split up, and churned through a dizzying sequence where funds move from a U.S. bank account to an import-export shell company in Panama, then get wired into a stock trading account in the Cayman Islands, and finally bounce through decentralized cryptocurrency protocols and privacy coins before landing safely in Eastern Europe. The most powerful tools for running this matrix are shell companies, which are legally registered corporations that exist only on paper with no physical office or employees, usually set up in tax havens like the British Virgin Islands, Delaware, or Nevada. So when investigators try to trace the funds, they hit an invisible legal wall, because Company A is owned by Company B in the Bahamas, which is managed by a trust controlled by a confidential attorney in Switzerland. And after 5 or 6 layers of corporate red tape like this, your original $5 million has completely vanished from the investigative radar and is ready for the final step, integration. After going through the washing machine in phase 1 and the dryer in phase 2, your money is now 100% clean, wearing a brand new corporate identity, and ready to re-enter your wallet as legal income so you can finally spend it. And to spend it as safely as possible, modern criminals usually route their clean funds into two favorite asset classes: real estate, where you use the clean shell companies from phase 2 to buy luxury real estate like Manhattan condos, Miami penthouses, or sprawling Los Angeles estates all cash or through anonymous LLCs, so that a couple of years later when you sell the property legally, millions of dollars roll back into your account fully recognized by the banks and the law as legitimate capital gains from real estate investing. And the high-end art market, where the value of a high-end abstract painting is completely subjective with no fixed retail price, allowing you to use clean money from a shell company to buy a piece of art, put it up for public auction, and have a trusted associate secretly act as the buyer to bid an astronomical price for it, resulting in the money flowing right back into your bank account under the title of a legitimate art sale, so you get clean spending money plus a multi-million-dollar painting to hang in your living room to flex your status. When you look at the whole picture, turning a pile of illegal cash into a luxury lifestyle is an intensely sophisticated, tightly woven chain of operations, and according to estimates by the United Nations, roughly $800 billion to $2 trillion, about 2 to 5% of global GDP, is laundered globally every single year through this exact three-step process, with the scariest part being that law enforcement agencies worldwide are only able to intercept and seize a measly 1% of it, meaning this financial machine operates with a staggering 99% success rate. If any legal business achieved a 99% success rate, we would call it an economic miracle, but in the underworld of money laundering, they just smile, look at their newly scrubbed funds, and call it another normal Tuesday.